Viome, again, another Bullseye Guy podcast. Super excited to have this man. Naveen is a legend. Going back to the days, I go way back in the internet, but Naveen has just done amazing things, was introduced to him not too long ago, was fortunate to spend some time with him in Los Angeles, and couldn't be more excited to talk about the latest project that I believe is not only a game changer, but a life changer for individuals, and you'll soon find out why. So Naveen, coming to us from Seattle, thank you so much. Love the background. And again, give us a little background, but let's go all the way back to, I won't go back to the beginning. We don't have time. Let's go back to the internet beginning. I love those stories.
Well, first of all, Stephen, thank you very much for hosting me here. I started this journey on the internet, give or take, I would say probably 96. So I was, working for Microsoft at very early days of Microsoft in 80s. And then as the internet was starting to become reality, I think there were probably half a dozen or so companies on the internet. And I decided to take a jump on the internet, trying to understand exactly how people are going to be using the information in the future. And that company was InfoSpace, and went on to become one of the top companies in the area. And then I went on to do several companies in completely different industries, including my previous company, Moon Express, really a space exploration company trying to save the humanity from potential extinction. And for the last about 7 years or so, I've been working on this healthcare company, which is, with the mission of understanding what is happening in people's body at a molecular level to be able to prevent and reverse chronic diseases. So fundamental belief is that chronic diseases are preventable and reversible. These are the lifestyle diseases. These are not the diseases we are born with. This is not something that happens to you. This is something you happen to do to yourself.
Right. So we'll move up to that one because I want to spend the majority of time there. Talk to me real quick, because I'm always interested in how, we move into new industries. So what was your interest in the internet, and what did you see early there?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that one, and then the interest in space, and then all the time on Viome.
Yeah. So I think, one of the things you notice is that every time there is a shift in the media, the shift in the paradigm. So anytime there is a paradigm shift, there are new leaders that are created. It's very rare that the people who are the leaders in the previous paradigm are able to actually make a move to a new paradigm. And it happens time and time again. So internet was a new paradigm. We were convinced that there were new set of companies that are going to be created. And, you can go back and look at the stuff there are whether it's a space exploration, whether it is internet, there are always what I would call the fundamental provider of the infrastructure. So in the internet, these are the people who laid the fiber. In the space industry, they are the people who build the rockets. Then there is a last mile solution, people who build the things from a fiber all the way to the home, the internet service provider. Sure. In this case, these are the lenders, right? And the people who end up making the most amount of money at the end of the day are neither the people who provide the infrastructure and rarely the people who provide the last mile solution. They all get commoditized. It's the application that you build on top of that infrastructure, on top of the last mile solution, is really the companies that end up thriving. So if you saw that, that's happened on the internet, right? So you would see that it wasn't the 3coms of the world, or the world, all the people names that we can't even remember anymore.
L3 Communications, WorldCom.
All these
Global Crossings.
All of them went bankrupt, right? And the last mile solutions were AOLs, and the people who were providing the internet service, they became commodity. And ultimately, the companies that won were, pick a name you want, all the FANG, right?
Yeah.
So, Facebooks of the world, the Amazons of the world, and, all the things, alphabets of the world, the Netflix and Google. These were all the companies that actually ended up thriving. Now, you have to start thinking about what is that happening in the space exploration. And the same type of things I see about 7 years ago, I saw on the healthcare. There is a fundamental paradigm shift that's happening. And my belief has always been, it is never the experts who end up disrupting the industry. You will never see actually a people coming from that industry disrupting the industry. It is the people from outside the industry who are fundamentally challenging the foundation of what experts have taken it for granted are the ones who end up disrupting, right? So you can pick almost any industry. You look at the taxi industry, I was disrupted by Uber. You look at the hotel industry, disrupted by Airbnb. You look at the aerospace industry, disrupted by somebody from the internet like Elon, right? And you can go on and on of these examples. It is the disruptors tend to rethink, reimagine, and recreate the foundation of what experts have taken it for granted. And that's where the disruption happens. And I see the same thing happening in the healthcare now.
That's amazing, because I joke with that too, Naveen, through the years, because I started internet companies and enterprise and mobile. People like, well, are you a programmer? And I joke, I'm like, I don't know how anything works, which is to my advantage, because I don't know what you're not supposed to be capable of. And sometimes you have to think outside of the box. So let's talk about outside of the box, from machines in the internet to machines on the moon. I'm not going to call it machines in people. But the pun and the segue, machines and people, and the box and the people, the Viome box is behind you. I'm excited. Talk about Viome. How did you recognize that? What does it do at a top level? Because I call it programmable DNA, but it's really not. You schooled me on the difference. So let's talk about Viome.
So if you think about it, we as humans haven't quite evolved, right? And still, there are more and more people who are suffering from chronic diseases, obesity, diabetes, heart diseases, cancer, right? Or even all the age-related diseases, whether you call them Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, or mental health issues, depression, and anxiety. What is it that's happening? Why are more people getting sick? And it occurred to me that there's got to be more of a lifestyle here that's actually causing us to have more people to have the diseases, rather than something about our genetics, because our genetics hasn't changed, right? And what is most important to me is, again, asking a different question that anyone else has asked before, right? So anytime if you want to disrupt something, you have to rethink, and to rethink, you have to ask a question that most people are not asking. So when I look at the healthcare, everybody was in the industry was focused on one thing, as you mentioned, your DNA. And it occurred to me that your DNA never changes when you develop a lifestyle disease. So you were to do my DNA test today, and a year later, I gained 400 pounds. My DNA is still the same. Now I get diabetes. My DNA is still the same. Now I get a heart attack. My DNA is still the same. DNA hasn't changed. And then I die. And if you were to do my DNA test 10 years after I die, my DNA is still the same.
Yeah.
Right? So if DNA can't even tell you you're dead or alive, how will it ever tell you you're healthy or sick? And that was a fundamental thing. Okay, so that's one problem. And what is changing is not your genes, but your gene expression is always changing. Epigenetics. What's changing is really how the genes are expressed. Your RNA. Now, everyone is pretty familiar with the 4-letter word called mRNA. That 4-letter word wasn't quite familiar 7 years ago, right? So my point is, we decided to measure the mRNA, the RNA of the human body. And then we looked at this stuff and saying, human body is not homogeneous. We are not made of the genes that we get from a mom and dad, which is a surprise to people. 99% of all the genes in our body do not come from our mom and dad. These are the microbes that live in our gut, in our mouth, in our nose, ear, and all over our body. 100 trillion microbes in the human body. Now think about it, 100 trillion. 99% of all the genes are in our body are not our own. These are come from microbes. And that was my second revelation, was we have to treat these microbiome and our human body as an ecosystem. This is an ecosystem of our body, just like we see the trillions of stars in the space, and our planet is just a part of that ecosystem. There is an ecosystem of the earth, and there is an ecosystem inside us. When there is an ecosystem that gets imbalanced, that is when the diseases start to happen. And it turns out.
Let me ask a quick question, Naveen. I really don't like disrupting, because you go on such a roll that's amazing. I just listen. Don't lose your spot there. Explain though what mRNA is, because I know that you know in your mind, but other people may not.
So the RNA is something, so after, if you go back to your high school biology or Khan Academy, you will see that DNA is like an alphabet. DNA is an alphabet of your story, right? So alphabet can write any story you want. You can take a same alphabet, you can write a thriller, you can write a romantic poetry, you can write anything you want. Similarly, the same DNA is the one that can produce your hair, your teeth, your skin. The same DNA, identical DNA in your body can produce different things. Yet you don't have the eyes growing on your fingers and the nails growing on your head. Why is that? It's certain genes are overexpressed, certain genes are underexpressed, and depending on what is being expressed, they can become your eye, nails, skin, or hair. Now, same thing happens. So that is what we mRNA or RNA is the one that tells what story is being written. And no one has ever measured RNA. We were the first company to actually go out and say, we're going to start measuring RNA. And I'll tell you that this wasn't the easy problem. There was no private company that has ever done it. We found the technology at the Los Alamos National Lab, and we actually got the exclusive right to this technology that allowed us to create Viome. The part that I was about to tell you was that on the microbiome. So what is the microbiome? Microbiome are the small, micro means very, very small, and biome is the organism, the living life, right? So these are small organisms that live inside our gut. These organisms are the one that actually digest the food for us. There are many of the functions of our human body cannot be performed by humans. They can only be performed by these microbiome. For example, digesting fiber, digesting these complex carbohydrate called oligosaccharides. So imagine when you are born, and the first several days of the mother's breast milk is nothing but the oligosaccharide that cannot be digested by the human body. It is only there to feed these microbiome. So imagine what nature is telling us. That we just created this offspring, and the only way to keep this offspring healthy and growing is not to feed the offspring, but to feed these microbes that are going to keep my offspring healthy. Right? Wow. So these microbes work in conjunction with the human body to actually provide the nutrient that our human body needs. So we feed them and they feed us. And when we feed them the wrong thing, they feed us the wrong thing. And guess what happens? That's where we become sick. Right? So there is a body that's supposed to work in combination. It's homeostasis, where everything is working perfectly. When there is a dysbiosis, when the things are not working perfectly, that's when you used to have body is not at ease. And when your body is not at ease, what do we call that? Dis-ease. The disease is what happens when there is a dysbiosis of the human body, where our ecosystem is not in balance anymore.
And so this is amazing, because I'm gonna change my terminology. I was saying programmable DNA, and then I'd say, but it's not. I'm just going to go RNA.
Yeah.
And then people can say, what is that? And we can at least talk about what programmable RNA is. Let's talk about let's not talk about what Viome does yet at an output level. Let's talk about what it can identify and what you can treat and how it works.
So very interestingly, so once you remember, the RNA tells you what are the amino acids, or what are the enzymes, amino acid, and molecules that are going to be produced based on the RNA. And once we know what is the molecules that are going to be produced, then we can see how those molecules are going to change the signal of the human genes. That means how is the inflammation is going to go up or down? How are how these molecules are binding to different receptors and changing what is going to happen. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is to understand what causes the onset of a chronic disease, what causes the progression of a chronic disease. Once we can understand, this is what causes for somebody to start developing a diabetes. This is what causes someone to start developing cancer. This is what causes people to start having issues with their arteries, right? And then once we know depression, anxiety, all these things are fundamentally the diseases of the lifestyle. Once we know that this is the biochemistry of the people who are sick versus this is the biochemistry of the people who are not sick, then you can say, how do you bring the sickness into the healthy part, right? So if this is the biochemistry that's needed to be healthy, and this is the biochemistry that is people who are sick, how do I bring the chemistry back to the people who are not sick, right? And that's fundamentally what we do. So we are able to understand what is causing a disease and then use a food as a medicine to be able to reverse the thing. And sometimes when people are already sick, we are able to diagnose the disease at the earliest level and then work with the pharmaceutical companies to come up with a way to actually cure the disease, not simply manage the disease.
And it sounds like science fiction, and I know it isn't because I've seen it. So you've given the example before, Naveen, of two twins. The twins have identical DNA, but their RNA is different because of lifestyle. And then what you've developed is testing. So talk to us, walk me through the testing side of how you actually identify this and what the identification is designed to do.
So first of all, any one of you can go and order this kit at Viome. So go to viome.com, and this is our mission. Imagine living in a world where illness is optional. As you will notice, first of all, it doesn't look like a medical box. It's more of a lifestyle, magnetic lock, easy to use at-home test. When you do this at-home test, a couple of things happen. You send us a finger prick, 4 drops of blood, touch of your stool, and very soon a spit of your saliva. And then we are able to completely analyze your body. And with that analysis, the 2 things happen. Number 1, we tell you what is happening in your body. For example, what's your biological age? Are you actually chronologically versus biologically, how well are you treating your body? What is your immune health? That means how well are you protected against the environment if you were to catch cold, flu, or God forbid the C word, right? Some disease that you don't want. What is your gut health looks like? What does your cellular health looks like? What does your oral health looks like? What does your heart health looks like? What does your cognitive health looks like? And we give you everything that's happening in your body. And then we just don't say, and good luck. Then we tell you, here is what we need to do. Here are the foods you should not eat, and here is why. And it is just for you, not for anyone else. We actually say, Stephen, we just analyze your body. You shouldn't be eating broccoli and cabbage, even though you think they are healthy for you. We are telling you because your sulfite production in your gut is too high. It is causing inflammation. And these foods are very high in sulfate. Don't eat them. Don't eat spinach because your oxalic acid metabolism is not working well. And this oxalate in the spinach is going to end up creating a kidney stone. You have too much of ammonia production that's coming from too much protein that you are eating. So you need to cut down the protein or take a digestive enzyme with your protein. And literally, here are the foods you shouldn't eat. Here is why. Here are the foods you should eat. And here is why. And here are the nutrients that your body is lacking. So we tell you, don't eat vitamin B3 because your uric acid production is too high. Don't take curcumin or turmeric, even though everyone thinks it's healthy. For you, it is not because your bile acid is too high. Now, but you do need 22 milligram of elderberry every day. You need 27 milligram of berberine every day. You need 89 milligram of amylase. And we tell you every vitamin, mineral, herbs, digestive enzyme, amino acid, probiotic, prebiotic, everything that you need. And then we go a step further. We actually have a robotic compounding pharmacy.
Hold on, hang on. Again, I love, I want to insert things because just like me and anybody else, when you listen to all that, what goes through my mind, Naveen, is, okay, this is better than 23andMe. This isn't genetically where I might be coming from. This is a full report of exactly what's going on in my body, whether I'm a diet or not, whether I eat, lifestyle, environment. All of that is in a report that is down to the microbe and milligram level. And it's not, eat healthy, but eat spinach because it's healthy. It's don't eat spinach because it impacts your body this way.
Yeah. And I think we are very good, by the way, you pointed out. If you were to base your diet on your DNA, and as we mentioned, your DNA doesn't change, why is it when you turn 35, you start to gain weight? You start to have diabetes, you start to have heart disease. Why is that? Your DNA
has nothing to do with DNA. It's lifestyle. So here's what I want to get to, because I know where you're going next.
Yeah.
This is what's fascinating, because again, I like to listen to you as if I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And as I listen, I'm like, okay, great. Now you've given me a report.
Yeah.
And it says there's a whole lot of things wrong with me and I need milligrams of it. And I'm thinking, how am I going to go buy all of these things? I don't like taking a bunch of vitamin. Like, Naveen, please make my life easy. Give me something in a box that makes my life easy. How do you fix that?
And so, by the way, that was really a challenge. And we knew that you could do that if you can create robotic compounding pharmacy, basically. Call that, nutrients, but it is compounding pharmacy. And we literally did that. So here's the thing.
This is the magic box. The other one was the Explorer box. This is the magic box.
The precision supplements.
Yes.
Precision, just what you need, nothing that you don't. And literally, we make these capsules on demand. There is no pre-made capsule. we go out there and say, this is being made for Steven. Go to bin number 23, get 17 milligram. Go to bin number 22, get 19 milligram. Go to bin number 7, get 89 milligram. And we literally take all that powder, shake it up, put them in the capsule, and ship it off to you. We take you all your probiotic, prebiotic made just for you. And as you come back 4-6 months later and say, okay, I've been taking them now, I want to see how my body is responding to it. We reanalyze your body and say, look, these are your scores now. Now you don't need to take berberine, but now you need to start taking this. So we literally go out and constantly change and fine tune your body as your body is changing and adapting.
So I want to talk about both lanes, because part of the objective of this is, I know you're raising capital on the company and I want to share it. I want people involved, but the other side that fascinates me is what this will do for health and humanity.
Yes.
Let's talk about the funding side first. Talk about the robotics of how you completely automated the robo factory or the robo pharmacy. And that box that comes out to you is not one packet. It's a box for every month.
Yes.
So it's coming out monthly. This is a subscription model that's completely automated.
That's correct. So again, there has never been, if there is a $250 billion supplement industry, which is based on one size fits all, everyone should take everything, right? The more you take, the merrier, right? People are taking 200, 300 capsules without realizing that things you put in your body are actually harming you. As I gave the example, if your bile acid production is too high, you shouldn't be taking turmeric. Yeah. And by the way, a lot of people are now taking NAD or NMN or NR thinking they're going to live longer, without realizing that is exactly what is going to harm them. If they have high cellular senescence or high inflammation, you shouldn't be taking NAD. You should not be taking NR or NMN. So we literally look at what's happening in your body, tell you what you actually need and what that you don't need. And then we make them for you for convenience, because you can't buy these 70 ingredients on 22 milligram of this, 7 milligram of that. You'll be taking 300 capsules, right?
Sure.
And so that's the reason we created this whole robotic compounding nutrient pharmacy. So think of these consumer pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah, like you said, it's all automated. So whenever you get the report, you're taking the milligrams of what's needed for that person. It is programmable precision.
Yep.
So that's the robotic side. That's the business side. Subscription model, the boxes every month. And then you reevaluate after 6 months. And just like you said, in the robotic factory, then you make the adjustments. It's not taking the same thing for 12 months.
That's right. So let me now just move farther before we go too much time here. So they are basically the 3 biggest assets for the company. Our number one asset is our unique matter transcriptome, unique way of analyzing the RNA. There is no other company can do what we do. Our RNA technology that's licensed from the Los Alamos National Lab, which is a biodefense project. This is able to do 30 times cheaper and 20,000-fold higher accuracy than anything out there in the marketplace. Second part is we have the largest database of all the people. Now we have analyzed over 350,000 samples, and these 350,000 samples are connected to every disease, every drug you're taking, every symptom you have, and that allows us to now understand what is causing people to have diseases. Number 3 biggest asset is our machine learning AI company, the AI platform that's able to analyze everything and tell you, predict what diseases are you moving towards, what diseases are moving away. And every time you do a test, we can say, look, you were here, and this is the disease people, you're moving towards a disease, or now you're moving away from a disease, depending on your lifestyle. And then we have 3 businesses on top of that. I talked to you about our consumer business, which is you do a test and you do a supplement. Our second business is a diagnostic business. Here, by looking at the data, we were able to, in fact, deduce that you have a very early stage cancer. So stage 1 oral cancer, stage 1 throat cancer. We went to FDA, and FDA has already given us a breakthrough device designation. What that means is there is nothing like this has ever been done before. And what you're doing is unique, and what you're doing will save people's lives. And now we're launching our diagnostic test for early detection of cancer in your mouth and throat. And we now have a trial for everything going down. So we are now working on esophageal cancer, stomach cancer, breast cancer, thyroid cancer. We're going through the things like pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, detection of other diseases like IBD. Do you have a Crohn, colitis, or any type of a GI disease? We are doing the same thing with early Alzheimer. So this is our MCI, mild cognitive impairment. So that's our diagnostic business. And our last part is therapeutics. Once we know what genes are overexpressed when you have a disease and what genes are underexpressed, we can modulate them. So we are able to now work with a pharma company to say, hey, get a small molecule or a peptide or something to make these genes to be underexpressed and make these genes overexpressed. We, in fact, have signed 2 contracts already with GSK. One is for developing a vaccine against autoimmune disease, and another one is for a cancer. And this is another we can't quite disclose what it is, but it's a therapeutics and a cure for colorectal cancer.
Yeah, and so the business side of this obviously is amazing. This is the great transition, though, Naveen, because I watch you and I know the business side you're excited about, but the humanities side is what really drives and motivates you. So talk to me about what your vision of what this could do for people.
Yeah. So, and Stephen, thank you for pointing that out. As you know, I grew up very poor. We didn't have food to eat. And the last, God knows, last 30 years, I've been doing this entrepreneurship. God has been very kind. So I started this company with a fundamental belief that we have a shot at preventing and helping billions of people live a disease-free life. So to me, the reason we do that is to find a way to, help people not to have to suffer through cancer, to suffer through depression, anxiety, lose lives to people with heart attack, people suffering from diseases that, are preventable. So our hope is that we are able to prevent all these diseases from happening using the food and supplements as a medicine. Because if you don't use food as a medicine, one day medicine is going to become your food, right? And I really believe the future of healthcare is going to be delivered at home, not in the hospital. And the medicines of the future are going to come from a farm, not a pharmacy.
And so with the impact on humanity, because there's so many things you can do with Viome, Naveen, not only the nutritional side, which is just normal everyday health, but the medical side of evaluating and finding diseases early and causing them. What do you see Viome being able to do really to change the way people think about health and nutrition and what it can do moving forward?
Well, again, the first thing I think most people should do is to make sure they never get sick to begin with, because when you are sick, you only have one wish. When you are healthy, you have many wishes. So make sure you're doing the testing to understand before you get sick what is going on in your body. Because remember, when you start getting the symptom, it's already been happening for 10, 15 years. You don't wake up in the morning and say, honey, I caught diabetes.
Yeah.
You don't catch diabetes. It develops over 10, 15 years. You get high insulin. You don't get high glucose. Your insulin is high because it's trying to take care of all the sweets you're eating. Then it cannot take care of it. Then your glucose starts to go up. And then your HbA1c starts to go up. But it's been happening for 10 years. Our job is to figure out when you start to get high insulin. To start to stop it right there. Even before you get Alzheimer's, can we actually detect you're starting to move towards mild cognitive impairment? Before you get cancer, can we start to say, hey, you have a pre-malignancy? Do you have polyps? Do you actually have IBD? Do you have IBS? Do you have the things that are happening before that, so we can stop it on the track before you develop cancer, right? And the idea is to be able to prevent them, diagnose them when people come to us too late, and then cure them when it is actually needed, and work with the pharmaceutical companies to create that.
There you go. I'll eventually come up with a tagline for you, like the 3 Ps. We have the 3 Cs. So it's predict, prevent, and precise.
Yes.
And again, we'll kind of wrap some things up. That's what I was always fascinated when I was talking to you, Naveen, because I consider myself healthy. I'm still athletic. I'm active.
Yeah.
But people are like, oh, do you take vitamins? And they kind of come and go because I never feel a difference.
Yes.
By the time I could feel a difference, as your point, it would be too late. This to me is fascinating because this is precision programming to the individual, and that programming changes over time. That's what I think is amazing with what you're doing. Any last thoughts? Because I'm super excited for you on the funding side, but I'm really excited for more people to know about what Viome does and how it could help them. Any closing thoughts for us?
Well, I just simply say that there is very rarely in our human history where there is a time where we are able to have the technology at our disposal that can allow us to build things that will change the trajectory of how humanity is going to live. And I'm so proud to be part of building something rather than simply watch it happen. So I hope you can all join me in this journey and help us help billions of people live a disease-free life.
And so the Viome side, on the funding side, that's going from a consumer standpoint. Are the tests available? Can people go in? Because this isn't a wish list. This is in operation and in delivery right now.
We have people, we have been selling them for almost 5.5 years now. So you can go to viome.com and in fact, order one for yourself. And if you want to learn more about us, you can go to Lifesciences.com. And that's our parent company, Viome Life Sciences, and Viome is a consumer brand. And you can go to Lifesciences.com and you can see all the wonderful things and exciting things we're doing to make the humanity better.
Perfect. I'm super excited. Naveen, thank you again. I know your time's valuable and you're doing amazing things. So computers on the internet, computers on the moon, and now precision programming in the body. I know you're going to change the world. So thank you so much.